So that's a big problem. How do we change that? How do we make a difference to people's life and convince them that space is useful? Is it just too early, or is there something we can do? Yeah? Just a moment, sorry. How's that? Better? Okay. This room's very big. So this is a question that young people have been thinking about for quite some time. Certainly since the Apollo era, been on the minds of a lot of people. And around about 1980, there's a guy you probably all know called Peter Diamandis. Peter Diamandis put a letter in a science magazine making a call out to people that who wanted to take part in an effort to promote space and organise space activities and broadcast messages of space to people. That message was picked up by a guy called Boshuizen in Canada, and ended up who should be doing this presentation, and another guy called Todd. And they got together and started talking about these ideas. And so they thought, well, what does the world of 2055 look like? What's involved? What should it look like? What are the visions for space? And how does that fit in with the lives of everybody on Earth and what's useful to people? So they started a conversation talking about these things and realised that what are the catalysts, what will set these things in motion? And so they started to think, well, what can we do ourselves to start some of these things? I can't really build a space station, but maybe I can do something that will change the industry or allow people to be educated to design a space station or to start a business or raise enough money to do that. So there's little things that you can do that will grow into these ideas. So they started off with this idea trying to work out what the end change were. And something that's interesting is, what did the future look like in 1980? Well, one of the big things was that there was no internet in 1980. So these guys were doing everything by pen and paper and telephone and writing letters and when were fax machines invented? Probably before that. So, they were writing letters to each other. So these guys were not writing, instant messages without emails. They were writing letters and sending ideas in the post backwards and forwards between each other. And they came up with an idea that what they needed at the time they were university students was a group to get people together, just like Tim was saying, to get the message back out to other people. So Peter Diamandis, Bob Richards and Todd Hawley created SEDS, which is the Students for Exploration and Development of Space. And they created this like a university club, and the idea was that in every city, for every university, there would be a group of people interested in space who would do space things locally and then meet nationally in the United States and as well as and Canada to promote space. And this idea got taken worldwide as well, and we now still have SEDS groups in universities all around the place. At one point, though, they graduated, and they said, well, we're not students anymore, and they passed on SEDS to the next generation of people. And SEDS is still running, and it's now been 25 years that SEDS has been going. The anniversary was last year, right? So 26 years. But then they said, well, what do we do now? So they thought, well, we're graduated, we still want to do something. So they created something called the Space Generation Foundation. And the name Space Generation, does anyone know why these, why?
Everyone born after the year
That's right, so anyone born after the year to go on a flight. I think, who's the oldest? Well, either one of them slightly older, they said, well, anyone after Sputnik in Space Generation. So the idea is that people before that were born in a world without, just as people who were 150 years old were born without telephones or things. People born before Sputnik or before Yuri Gagarin's flight didn't know that space was part of our world. People born after that naturally grew up with the idea that you could go to space. And that's a very subtle difference in thinking, and that's powerful. So they took this idea and called it the Space Generation. And so they started this organisation in the United States, and they sat down, and they're very thorough people, and anyone who's met Peter knows that he thinks a lot, thinks to great depth, and so does Bob and Todd. And so they thought, what are the 10 key projects that this world needs to change the way we access and use space and to make it beneficial for people? So the first one, the top one they came up with was ISU. Now ISU turned out to be a monster, and Space Generation, when they started it, that was the main one they did. And after that, they didn't have any more time to start any other Space Generation projects, so this just took a lot of effort. So ISU was actually created from the Space Generation Foundation. And so then that got picked up by other people, and we have the campus in Strasbourg now because the Europeans got involved to a great extent and really pushed it. And by using the network and drawing in people from all around the place, an idea that was just started by 3 people now grew into an international university supported by hundreds of people in the background making it happen, with hundreds of thousands of students coming every year. So it's a very good example of just how 1 or 2 or 3 people can come up with an idea and make it happen. And it's a huge idea. So the Space Generation Foundation itself sort of went to sleep at that point, so they're busy doing that. So SED started in 1981 to 85, Space Generation was born, ISU in the next year, and then in 1996, Peter started the X Prize, which of course we all know the success of that as well. Now, in 1999 was the Unispace 3 Symposium, which is the big every 10-year super space meeting. And at that time, the United Nations decided they wanted to have a youth meeting as well, particularly to get the ideas from young people, policy or future laws in space and space development around the world. They wanted the ideas of young people, so they organised something called the Space Generation Forum, which was also SGC, the same acronym. And I think somebody put a call to Peter involved and said, can we use the name Space Generation? And they said, fine, it sounds good. So again, the Space Generation started up again. And they met 4 times, I think, in Phase 3 and then 3 drafts meetings afterwards, which were all paid for by, I think, the United Nations paid a whole lot, so they flew people in. They stopped doing that. And so then in 2002, there was the World Space Congress in Houston, and a group of delegates who came in said, well, we want to do this conference again. So we organised it ourselves, and I was a delegate that year for the first time going. So just like Tim, I went along from Australia, I had no idea what it was about. I turned up and I met 100 young people just like you. And one of the things I realised, this is me personally, was that I'm from Australia, which is very remote from the rest of the world. And I met these people, young people, people who'd been to space camp since they were 6. They knew astronauts personally. They had tours of Kennedy Space Center every summer. And I was like, this is where I want to be. And so I joined just like Tim and our manager last year, managed the conference myself. So from that point on, out of Phase 3, the Space Generation Advisory Council was also formed, which Jim Bolt will talk about tomorrow. And so that now is the main body worldwide that organises the Space Generation activities. And the Space Generation Foundation still runs basically as the United States branch of SGC. So we're all working together to promote Space Generation activities. So just independently, this is the ISU timeline, to give you an idea of what happened with that. So ISU was founded in 1987, and they organised the first summer session by actually borrowing a university in summer break and using the rooms and putting it in there, and then the next year moving it somewhere else. After a while, they had a vision. They had 3 visions, I think. One was to hold the summer sessions. One was the next was a permanent campus, and then finally to have sessions in space. So after working on it for around 10 years, can you read that? It's a little small. In 1992, the central campus in Strasbourg was announced, and the first master's program began in 1995. And in 2000, I had a photo in the groundbreaking ceremony when the facility was built. How many people here have actually been to the campus in Strasbourg? So quite a few. And ISU gained its accreditation in 2004.